Hey, what's happening? So, Arne Slot, new Liverpool manager. Why? Well, I want to talk about that. And there's a huge temptation to get sucked into the why not someone else. And I'll have a little bit of a chat around that. And first and foremost, let's just lay it out. Because my overriding feeling on this whole situation is that Jurgen Klopp was the best manager in the world, and certainly the best managerial fit for Liverpool, perhaps the best managerial fit there's been for Liverpool since, dare we say, Bill Shankly, and not that people haven't been successful since Bill Shankly and up until Jurgen Klopp, and therefore won't be successful after Jurgen Klopp, which is an interesting point. But yeah, everything about Jurgen felt like the perfect fit for us in terms of personality, brand of football, and just generally how he sort of conducted himself on and off the pitch. His attitude towards life and football vibed very, very well with us, didn't it? I don't need to tell you that. Everyone knows that. He's been a great Liverpool manager, no matter what some people might try and say, despite the fact that Liverpool have been in sticky form for the last few weeks and, you know, probably won't add any more silverware to Jurgen Klopp's collection, won't detract from the fact that he's won everything you can win in the 8.5 years at Liverpool. I mean, I've had an absolute whale of a time. I've had the best time I've ever had supporting Liverpool under him. But to quote Jerry Jarrett, deep cut wrestling reference, those times were great, but those times are no more. So Liverpool have to move on. And I just want to address the recriminations around that first and foremost, because I've seen a lot of like, oh God, people just saying, why have we gone for Arne Slot? Why didn't they go for press harder for Xabi Alonso or Xavi or Zidane? Or, you know, I saw some people in the comments on the last video saying Mourinho. No. This guy might not be the right guy, but I tell you who's the wrong guy: Jose Mourinho. I'll tell you that for free. He might win us some trophies while we hang on. That's how he gets you. That's how he gets you. Don't fall into his trap. That's how he's been continuing to get jobs. Continually worse and worse jobs as he slides away into obscurity. But what I did on the last video that I put up was obviously like ranking the managers, and I mentioned it in the graphics. I recorded that. I researched that all day, recorded it, and then in the final, basically 30 seconds of me wrapping it up, a little text message popped up on my phone, and then when I finished recording, I checked it, and it said Slot is the front runner for the Liverpool job. I was like, well, I've just talked about him and didn't know a great deal about him. That's a little problem for me, and one of the problems I've really struggled with this manager thing is not wanting to nail my colours to the mast too soon, because ultimately my overall take is there is no one better than Jurgen Klopp. Moreover, every manager is worse than Jurgen Klopp. How can I be super upbeat about anyone when Jurgen Klopp is making Liverpool worse by leaving? And I'm trying not to be angry at him and the world over all these things, but that's the long and short of it. So I see all this infighting, and it should be this guy, it should be this guy, they're all crap. They're all crap compared to Jurgen Klopp. That is my take on the whole situation. However, that is a take that can only carry you so far, and there's no conversation to be had for it. And ultimately, life's a shit house. I don't get to keep Jurgen Klopp as Liverpool manager. I didn't get to keep Rafa Benitez, and I wanted him to stay in charge. Lots of people wanted Kenny Dalglish to stay in charge twice, and that didn't happen. People wanted Bill Shankly to stay in charge. Except, look, life moves on. Liverpool Football Club endures. So Arne Slot is the new Liverpool manager. Why have they done this? And I think there's been a process that they've followed from everything that you can tell, and that's like some of this is reading between the lines, some of this is reading of the tea leaves, and some of this is just bits and pieces that you accumulate of knowledge through reading articles, but also speaking to people in and around football. Xabi Alonso was quite clearly top of the list for Liverpool, quite clearly, and why wouldn't he be? He's just gone and absolutely stormed the Bundesliga, and even though he hadn't done that yet when Jurgen Klopp announced his decision, he was clearly a front runner. Now, that would have been totally vindicated if Liverpool had gotten that over the line. It would have looked smart, but if you recall, go back to January into February, there was a lot of, this guy could be the next Steven Gerrard because he's not done it yet, and what if he's crap next season? And those things remain true. But what he was on the verge of doing was breaking the established order of a European league with a team that very much was not the favourites and had a track record, in fact, of not regularly winning the league title. And I like that. And I think that is the sort of, I discussed what the baseline borderline requirements are for Liverpool manager, and I talked about did they won a major honour previously, had they won any silverware before, did they have Champions League experience, and do they have any European experience in general, and also an age profile. And where Arne Slot initially fell down, because in the top of the pile on that last video I had Xabi Alonso. Obviously he wouldn't have necessarily been top of the pile 2 months ago, but he is now because he's won the Bundesliga. Ruben Amorim was in there, but then managers like Xavi and Zidane and a bunch of, and technically, if I didn't steadfastly refuse to put him in there, Mourinho would have been in there. But there were some obviously managers who ticked all of those boxes across the way. The thing that I think Liverpool were looking for and are looking for is a project coach, and not necessarily in the way that they were with Brendan Rodgers, who I think was too much of a project coach. I mean, his experience came in the Championship. Now, you might look at the Championship and say, really good league. And I agree, by the way. I think it's the second best. I think it's the best second league in European football. But he didn't have enough top-level coaching experience. And I don't think Liverpool were going to make that mistake again. But there's a bunch of managers out there who I think were very Brendan Rodgers-y. And that is to say, I've got a good philosophy of football, look like good coaches, good man managers, but ultimately are probably a job away from really being Liverpool manager. They need to go and prove that. And I think that Champions League experience and actually winning a major honour. Now, where I initially put Arne Slot in was actually in the second rank, because technically the Dutch league isn't a major honour because it's not a top 5 European league. And although there's some debate at the moment, Portugal technically is. I think I've had this debate, but I believe it's pushed Liga and the French league out of top 5. So funnily enough, something like Unai Emery, I'm pretty sure he won it with PSG. But the point is, what I did was I factored that in my Arne Slot thing without knowing really anything about him or his philosophy of football, and even honestly really consider him in the running for the Liverpool manager. It looked like Ruben Amorim all day long, and I was gearing then even more towards just give it to Pep Lijnders, because there's a guy who's already inside, and yes, he hasn't done it as a manager, but he has been along for the ride and he's been there making big decisions along the way. Could he be the next Mikel Arteta? But then again, could Mikel Arteta have followed from Pep Guardiola and had the success, well, relative success that he's had? We'll never know that, of course. Maybe he needs to get out on his own before he can come back to it. Whatever. The point I'm driving at here with Arne Slot is he's done a similar thing to what Alonso's done and what Amorim's done, and that is take an unfavoured football club that don't have close to the biggest budget in that division and then gone and won the league. And the interesting thing with this is that I saw a lot of criticism of Ange Postecoglou and like going, well, what's he won? He hasn't, he's not won a Premier League. He's not won like La Liga. He's won leagues, and you can. Whereas those teams that he won the league with would get killed by Manchester City, as an example. Actually, the experience of being in a 16, 18, 20, whatever team league, the pressures of winning a league are exactly the same. You've got your favourites for the league, you've got the worst team in the league that's going to get absolutely battered and get relegated. The structure of almost every league fundamentally is exactly the same. It's just that you have a different quality of footballer. So basically having the knowledge of how to go and win a league title, that's important knowledge. That's something that you can carry through. You know what that pressure feels like, because the pressure of being a Feyenoord team trying to overthrow PSV and Ajax will feel similar to being a Liverpool trying to overthrow, in the past, Manchester United, well, nowadays Man City and Arsenal, as it'll stand probably for next season. So I like that. So I gave him a little bit more of a ranking, and I think that's one of the base things we've sort of gone for. Alonso looked like top of the pile. I don't quite know why the Amorim thing's broken down, but it looks a little bit like he just doesn't really want the job enough to bend over backwards for it, whereas Slot wants it so much that he's come out and put public statements out saying, I want Liverpool. And look, I'll be honest, it's like anything, if someone's not qualified for a job that they're being offering, you'll do everything in your power to get that job. I understand that's the negative, sort of like glass half full way of looking at it, but I like the fact that he clearly just wants to be Liverpool manager, and I haven't had that sense from the Ruben Amorim stuff, because he by all accounts has gone, here's how much money I want to earn as the first conversation, and then people are going, okay, well, that's not what we're going to pay a manager, not in year one certainly. Maybe you can get to that, mate. And he's going, all right, Dan, I'll talk to West Ham. I'm like, all right, mate, fill your boots, go talk to West Ham, have a fun time, mate, with the bubble machines and the weird stadium. Some lovely fans support West Ham, good football club, but yeah, go ahead, go ahead. If someone is prepared to go that way, whatever. And I don't know the full ins and outs, so I'm not going to absolutely slaughter them. There might be more moving parts to it. But anyway, again, then you look down the model of who's third in line. And I honestly, and this was without having any personal skin in it or stakes in it, in terms of those sort of criteria, I'd heard a lot of like, Arne Slot, or Dutch, well, we've seen what happens with Erik ten Hag and blah, blah, blah. But actually just looking at it by those fundamental things that are laid out in the chart, the only manager in all the 16 top bookies' favourite managers that came in the second tier was Arne Slot. Everyone else was either first, i.e. the managers that I've listed already, or came in the tier below, which is that middle mush of good tactical philosophy, might be a good talker. It's got a few things that mean they might be good Liverpool managers, but they don't have a track record of success that says it's scalable. Which I think is more easy to prove when you've got silverware in your locker. And the one sort of aside to this, I've seen Liverpool are now shopping in Tottenham Hotspur pool. It is worth considering that I really like Hans Postecoglou. And we had a message of someone today, and I don't know who it was from, but it got forwarded on to me through Redmen, saying we should be moving heaven and earth to get Postecoglou. I think he's a better manager. Tottenham went for Arne Slot, and he turned them down because he wanted to do another year at Feyenoord, which rings very familiar when we're talking about Xabi Alonso, right? So I don't know whether he's good enough. The ultimate approach and general line is nobody's good enough. And if you accept that nobody is going to be as good as Jurgen Klopp, then you just roll with the punches. And the point that Liverpool have done, and the way they've approached this, in getting Michael Edwards back and then having him pick the director of football, leaving them in charge of it. So this isn't an FSG decision. And I know technically Michael Edwards is now an FSG guy, but the point is he's been put in charge. This is not John Henry sat there in Mount Doom, presumably in the boardroom, at top Fenway, with Linda cackling with cigars that are taking money out of the transfer fund. They put Michael Edwards in charge to run the football operations of Fenway Sports Group, and this is a guy who was pivotal behind the scenes in getting Jurgen Klopp and keeping Jurgen Klopp and facilitating his rise with Liverpool back to the top of European football. So ultimately what I'm saying is I trust Michael Edwards to do the job, and I think what it all swings back around to, whether you agree with it as the right manager or not, time will ultimately tell, because it always does. Odds are everything will go to shit because the Jurgen Klopp is so good that can anyone ever really follow that? Can you go on stage after the Beatles and do better than them? No, because there was no better band than the Beatles. But things can be done in different ways. Liverpool had success after Bill Shankly left the football club. It is absolutely possible. It is possible to turn things around and do it in a different way. We might just end up in the wilderness for a few years, and again, that'll be annoying and it'll be frustrating. But it is what it is. Liverpool have had to roll with the punches. There was no ideal circumstance. The ideal circumstance would have been Xabi Alonso going, there we go, I've achieved everything I want to achieve at Leverkusen. Here you go, Liverpool, I'm yours. But he didn't want to. And I respect that. It's annoying, but I respect it. And what it is this? It's a bit like saying to someone, "Oh, your new bird's not as fit as your old bird," and you go, "Oh, well, thanks for that." Or she's not good. She's not as fun, or she's just not as cool, or not as interested. And you're like, "Okay, thanks for that." You know that my last bird left me, right? I didn't choose that. That was a decision that was taken for me by someone else. So that's what it is. I don't see any reason why we should bash any potential future managers coming in for Liverpool. Like Slot as an example. Because the absolute ideal was Jurgen just saw his contract out, and he's chosen not to. So we've had to roll with the punches. It is a bold, clear, decisive decision has been taken in unforeseen and the kind of circumstances that you just in ideal circumstances. So yeah, ultimately it is what it is. Somebody has to make the decision, and somebody has to live and die by the decision, and that is Michael Edwards, and that is Richard Hughes, and hopefully they've made the right call. But then we do this everywhere. We do this every year. Every single year it happens. Have we bought the right players? Do we have the right coaches? Have we got the right fitness track record? Have we got all these sort of factors? There's so many unknowns in football, and this is another one. But at least we now know. And we can stop with the speculation, and Liverpool can crack on. And it's annoying that, I just want Liverpool to end the season on a high, win as many football games as they can now, and then look, we'll give Jurgen the send-off he deserves. But the best thing is now is that he made that decision. It threw Liverpool into potential disastrous turmoil. Liverpool have now got their man, they can plan and they can move forward, and now that sort of team is in place. You've got the manager, director of football, and the head of football operations, or whatever you want to call Edwards, and they can start planning transfers and tactics, and they can talk to the players, and they can start to gauge, things. Liverpool, the worst thing that could possibly happen was to get into the summer and start making decisions on this. You need, as this guy, if he's going to succeed, if he's going to follow in the footsteps of greatness, then he's going to need every ounce of help. And that is as big a, clearer run at this as possible. That's regards to training and tactics and transfers and everything. And ultimately, he's going to need our support. I started doing YouTube content. I made a pilot for Redmen in the summer of 2009, and Rafa Benitez was in charge, and we just come second in the league. And then by the time I got it out into the world, summer of 2010, Rafa was sacked, and we brought Roy Hodgson in. And look, it became quickly apparent that he wasn't the man for Liverpool, but we conducted ourselves with as much decorum and grace as we possibly can. We didn't chant for his head. We chanted Hodgson for England. Because we're not pricks at Liverpool, not just people outside might think we are. They're wrong. There's a way to go about conducting it. So I'm gonna welcome him in. I'm gutted he's not Jurgen Klopp, but then the only person Jurgen Klopp, who is Jurgen Klopp, is Jurgen Klopp, and Jurgen Klopp doesn't want to be Liverpool manager anymore. So yeah, we're just gonna have to crack on with it. But yeah, look, whatever it looks like, we're Liverpool fans, right? If you're a Liverpool fan, presumably you are. We'll get behind it, we'll support it, and ultimately we'll see what happens. But there's a great crop of footballers at the football club now. I'm interested to see what he'll do. All the word is that he's an overall very similar style of play to how Liverpool play under Klopp. So we've got players that will suit his style. Now, can he take it from the level of Feyenoord are at and transpose them into better footballers? Who knows? But fingers crossed. From what I've seen of the Feyenoord team, they're getting blitzed, but they're the second best team at the moment. They score goals. They've got a good defensive record. They play a good brand of football. He's come up the sort of right way from being a very coach-minded footballer to coming up in his stripes along the way, which I like, very Jurgen Klopp and Alonso in that way as well. And he's done what he can do with a Feyenoord team that is at best really consistently the third best team in Holland, and taking them to into Europe, to the Conference League final, won the league, won the cup. Fine, let's see what he can do as Liverpool boss. What do you think? What do you think? Has anything that I've said here changed your opinion on it? Were you dead set against it? Because ultimately, we've all got our personal opinions on this, and I could go, I think it's a shit appointment and blah blah blah. It does nothing but sow disharmony and spread a bit of misery, which I don't see the point in doing. But also, what I like to look at is not what I think they should have done, but why did they take the decision that they've taken it. And I think in a world where one of the best managers in the world drops the bomb halfway through a season with 2 years left on his contract that he's leaving, you've got to go and make something happen. But when Brendan Rodgers was sacked, Carlo Ancelotti and Jurgen Klopp were available, and there was no wrong answer. The right answer ultimately was Klopp, and he was really the best choice, but we'd have been made up with either. And there's a bunch of managers out there, and none of whom are really screaming out, obviously, next Liverpool manager. So we had to pick one of them, and we've picked one, and now we move. Anyway, let me know in the comments below. Like, share and subscribe, and if you want to see that rankings video which has got my totally unencumbered, totally honest opinion of Arne Slot, because I hadn't really considered him for the job at all, then do check out that video as well. Anyway, have a boss weekend. Hopefully Liverpool can win some football matches, and then we can welcome the new manager in with open arms. Oh, if you want a half price of a year of Redmen Plus, I get shouted at for not saying this, use the code SLOT, SLOT, to get half price of a year's subscription to redmenplus.com. Nice one.